Civ VII released earlier this year, and it's not very good. The changes feel random, the pacing is wrong, and it feels like it doesn't understand what made the series work in the first place. Instead of going back to Civ VI again, try these 5 games that took the empire building formula and did something useful with it. Some focus on combat, others on consequences, but all of them treat strategy gaming like it should reward planning instead of clicking through menus for hours. Warlock cuts out most of Civilization's boring parts and focuses on magical warfare. You're still building cities and researching tech, but everything revolves around summoning creatures and casting spells to crush your enemies. Combat happens on tactical battlefields where positioning and spell timing win fights, not abstract dice rolls that hide behind animations. The magic system works because it's integrated into everything. Cities summon demons instantly instead of building infantry over 20 turns. Research unlocks fireball spells and dragon summoning instead of bronze working or pottery. City management stays simple because the game knows you want to be planning battles, not optimizing trade routes and citizen happiness meters. Warlock keeps you busy because threats appear constantly. Neutral monsters spawn everywhere, rival wizards expand aggressively, and magical disasters change the map without warning. The game doesn't pretend to offer diplomatic victories or cultural wins because it knows what it is, a fantasy war game where the strongest magical army conquers everything. This focus makes it more fun than strategy games that try to be everything and end up being mediocre at all of it. Planetfall takes Civ's empire building and adds XCOM combat. When armies fight, you control individual soldiers on detailed battlefields with cover, flanking and environmental hazards. The tactical battles have real depth because unit abilities combine in ways that reward smart positioning over just having more troops. The factions play completely differently. The Syndicate uses corporate warfare and economic manipulation. Devar are industrial dwarves who build defensive networks and deploy mechs. Amazon tribes bond with alien creatures for biological warfare that conventional armies can't handle. You have to learn new strategies for each faction because what works for one will get you killed playing another. Sci-fi weapons create tactical possibilities that swords and guns can't match. Cybernetic implants modify soldiers during battle, alien creatures terraform terrain while fighting, and energy weapons interact with environmental hazards in ways that can backfire spectacularly. The post-apocalyptic setting means everyone is fighting over resources, so the constant warfare makes sense without needing diplomatic excuses. Endless Legend builds factions that break the basic rules. Broken Lords are undead who can't produce food and have to buy population growth with currency. Cultists can only build one city but convert minor factions across the map. Necrophages have to eat other populations to grow, making peace impossible. Each civilization works differently enough that you're basically learning a new game every time. Seasons change everything about how you play. Winter slows armies, cuts food production, and can starve civilizations that didn't plan ahead. Different regions give specific bonuses that make expansion decisions more complex than just grabbing the best looking territory. Some areas boost industry, others help research, and rare regions contain strategic resources for powerful late game units. The quest stories advance through your actions instead of cutscenes that interrupt gameplay. Each faction has storylines that progress when you conquer territory, research technology, or win battles. The writing builds atmosphere without stopping the game for text dumps. Combat happens on the main map, with positioning and terrain deciding outcomes, so you get more tactical thinking without spending forever managing individual battlefield movements. Millennia does alternate history by making your choices change how civilizations develop. Early decisions about military versus culture unlock different technological paths permanently. The age system responds to what players do and what happens in the world, so historical progression feels like something you earned instead of something that just happens automatically. Cities specialise based on terrain and resources instead of all becoming identical production centres, so where you expand and how you develop territory becomes important. You can't just build cities everywhere and expect them all to work, because geography and resource distribution create real limits on what's possible. Your development choices create problems later that you have to deal with. Push industrialisation too fast, and pollution crises reduce agricultural output and cause public health disasters. Focus too much on military expansion and your economy suffers while other civilizations form coalitions against you. The game connects your early choices to later consequences in ways that make long-term planning necessary. Old World was designed by Soren Johnson, who created Civilization IV. The orders system limits how much you can do each turn, forcing you to prioritise actions because you can't just click through everything. Each choice means giving up something else, which makes strategic planning more important than micro-optimisation. Your orders age, marry, have children and die, passing traits and relationships to their heirs. Family politics affect diplomatic options. Court marriages create alliance opportunities, and succession crises can destabilize your entire empire. The dynasty mechanics create stories through gameplay instead of forcing scripted events that interrupt strategy. Combat rewards positioning and unit combinations over just having bigger armies. Smaller forces with better tactics can beat larger ones through superior battlefield control. Cities stay compact and defensible instead of sprawling across multiple tiles, making sieges more strategic. Technology forces specialization because you can't research everything, so you have to choose between military, economic, and cultural development. The timeline covers specific historical periods instead of thousands of years, so each ruler's reign means something significant for your civilization's development. Victory feels earned because it represents generations of planning and focus, not grinding through arbitrary milestones until the game declares you won. Old World takes the top spot because it solves problems that have plagued 4X games for decades. The order system prevents mindless clicking, the dynasty mechanics create personal investment in outcomes, the compressed timeline maintains narrative coherence. Most importantly, it respects your intelligence by making every system serve strategic depth instead of just adding complexity for its own sake. If you're tired of Civilization's bloated feature lists and want strategy games that focus on what works, these 5 deliver. Warlock strips away complexity to focus on magical combat. Planetfall integrates tactical battles without drowning you in micromanagement. Endless Legend makes factions that play fundamentally differently. Millennia connects your choices to historical consequences. Old World perfects the formula by solving problems instead of adding features. Stop playing inferior versions of games you've already mastered. Try something that would challenge your assumptions about how 4X games should work.